You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. Brian Kelly met with reporters after practice, and as you might imagine, at this point, we're moving into week 2 of fall camp, first full week of fall camp, but as the Tigers are putting on the pads and we're seeing more and more, there are some questions that become somewhat obvious. They sort of ask themselves. If you've been out to practice, you would very clearly look at how much success the receivers are having against the defensive backs, and that becomes a very natural question. Well, something else that everybody is asking about and wondering about is the running back spot. And Josh Williams, by the end of last year, had left no doubt that he was LSU's trusted and most reliable back. Jaden Daniels was your leading rusher from the quarterback spot, but among the running backs, Josh Williams was your guy. He had 97 rushes for 532 yards. Noah Cain was next with 76 for 409. John Emery, 76 for 375. Then you had Armani Goodwin with 45 carries for 267. Now, Josh Williams missed time at the end of the season with injury. Armani Goodwin missed a chunk of the season with that hamstring injury. And we know John Emery had certain limitations a year ago as well. So now you go into this season, and Josh Williams is back, Noah Cain is back, John Emery is back, Armani Goodwin is healthy, and you've added Logan Diggs from Notre Dame. You've re-added Trey Bradford, that's 6, and then you've added 2 freshmen as well with Trey Holly and Caleb Jackson. So you are loaded. You've got 8 running backs, and that doesn't even include your quarterback, who was your leading rusher a year ago. So how do you sort all of this out? Brian Kelly was asked that question today, and here's what he had to say about the running backs.
A collection of experienced backs that have, a different style. Each one of them has a little bit that they can offer. So, look, we got one football. That hasn't changed. So, we'll figure it out as it goes. But my guess is that, it always ends up coming back to the guys with the most experience end up kind of rising to the top and taking it over.
I think the end of that answer right there is probably tells you where you start, okay? Yes, you can be very excited about Trey Holly and about Caleb Jackson and their futures at LSU. And I think you should be. Trey Holly was the state's all-time leading rusher. Jackson is a guy from just north, or from just here at Liberty Magnet. And you could tell there's a lot of reason to be excited. As a matter of fact, can we play this from Music's number 14? Brian Kelly was asked specifically about Caleb Jackson. And he talks about why he likes him so much as a player.
He's big, he's physical, he's strong, but he's raw. And so a lot of the work with Caleb is ball security, low pads, the nuances of the game, which, when you have a physical, I don't want to use the word, but just a guy that has that kind of prowess at the position, those are good things to work on, right? We don't have to worry about some of the other things. So it's just the details with him.
He's 6 foot 225. He is the big-bodied running back that had become sort of symbiotic with LSU from guys like Jeremy Hill, and I hesitate to say Leonard Fournette. Obviously, we know he's just a completely different back, but Darius Geis, when you had those dudes that were 6 foot 225 and ran with a ton of power and speed, like Caleb Jackson looks like that. He's a big back, but he's also, as you heard Brian Kelly say in that previous cut, generally, you keep feeding him, and situationally, you see how things go, and ultimately, generally, experience tends to win out. So as I'm looking at it, I go, all right, you can take the 2 freshmen and basically draw a line and say anything at all you get from them this year is probably just lagniappe. It's if there is a situation that arises where due to injury or something unforeseen, they go off, great. But more than likely what you're going to see is the cluster of guys that have been in these situations fighting for reps to ultimately see who is going to win the lion's share of those reps. Now, I've given you two different, or one primary example that I think mirrors this year, and it was 2011. That's probably the best example. And in 2011, Spencer Ware and Michael Ford each had more than 100 carries. Ware had 177, Ford had 127. Well, Blue had 78, Kenny Hilliard had 62, Jordan Jefferson from the quarterback position had 75 rushing attempts. You're going to expect, of course, that we are going to see Jaden Daniels run a lot this year. Terrence McGee had 27 rushes. So you ended up with 5 backs that all had meaningful playing time, plus your quarterback. So 6 runners. Now, Russell Shepard had 7 that year. So you might see a guy like Aaron Anderson on the jet action and whatnot. We saw Malik Neighbors do that in the bowl game and was explosive, dynamic in that jet sweep action. So there's going to be those opportunities as well to be dynamic and creative within the running game. But ultimately, what I think this comes down to, again, we saw Josh Williams take the first team reps the first day. On Monday, it was Logan Diggs taking the first team reps. Today, Tuesday, it was Armani Goodwin taking the first team reps. So I think what you're seeing is the coaching staff kind of telling you what order they're going in as far as the veteran guys. And that's probably your order. It's probably Josh Williams and Logan Diggs, then Armani Goodwin and Trey Bradford, however Bradford may fit in. And John Emery is probably your wild card because you know John Emery has a very specific skill set. He's your home run hitter, but he's not the guy you're going to turn around and give the ball to 20 times in a game. Now, the other interesting thing is Trey Bradford, because we all know Bradford's story. He came to LSU, was here as a freshman, transferred in the offseason to Oklahoma, never played a game at Oklahoma, ended up coming back to LSU, left again, had to essentially get back into school to rejoin the team. Brian Kelly was asked today about giving Trey Bradford that third opportunity back at LSU, and here's what Kelly had to say.
He had a long road. I mean, he had to get back into school on his own. We didn't help him. The way we left it with him was that we're open to second chances here, but this one is on you. You've got to prove yourself. You've got to prove yourself to the university, and it's going to be up to the university to decide whether they want to re-enroll you. We're not going to make any calls. We're not writing any letters. And if you understand what the guidelines are and you're able to do that, and then you come here this summer and our strength coaches sign off on you that you've done everything to warrant an opportunity, then we'll invite you to camp. And both of those things happened.
So that's another veteran back right there. Trey Bradford's gone through a long process. I don't know what his role will be on this team, but if I'm looking at the pecking order, that's probably what you're looking at. You're probably looking at Josh Williams, Logan Diggs, then a combination of Armani Goodwin and John Emery in his jack-of-all-trades role. And then what's left is probably for Trey Bradford. I keep saying that without mentioning Noah Cain, who I kind of fear is maybe going to be the lost guy in this mix. But the other year, I mentioned there was a couple of years. The other year that I would point out where it was similar was 2007. Of course, that team won a national championship. Now, Hester was the lead guy. Hester had 225 carries that year, but he was hardly the only guy. Keelan Williams had 70 rushing attempts. Charles Scott had 45. And we all remember, of course, the triple overtime loss to Kentucky, where Charles Scott had 92 yards in the first half of that game. So there may be days where you sort of feed the hot hand. We forget how much Matt Flynn ran the ball that year. Matt Flynn had 100 rushing attempts that year, and Perilou had 52. They had built a package for Ryan Perilou. That doesn't even include Richard Murphy, who had 35 rushing attempts, and Trendon Holiday, who had 53. So Hester, Keelan, Holiday, Charles Scott, Richard Murphy, that's 5 running backs, and your 2 quarterbacks, Flynn and Perilou, 7 different players had meaningful rushing attempts that season. So all that to say, I think we're fixated on who's going to be the guy. And just like in 2007, Hester was the bell cow. Just like in 2011, it really was Spencer Ware and Michael Ford that was the lion's share of the work. But they found a way to get 6, 7 guys involved in the rushing game, and I think they're going to do that again this year. And listen, for that to work, all of the guys in that room have to be on board with it working, which is why when we were at SEC Media Days a couple of weeks back, and I had Josh Williams sitting with me at Media Days, and I ran through that. I ran through all the names. I said, like, how do you feed so many mouths? This is what Josh Williams said.
We all understand that Coach Kelly is the one that puts the player in the game. You all understand that. So it's not up to us. We also understand that this isn't about who is going to play the most reps. This is strictly about who's going to give us the best chance to win the game. This is my perspective on it. I'm playing Madden. And
I love where he's going.
I'm playing Madden, and I'm playing with the All-Star team, and I got Barry Sanders in the game. I'm the coach. I control the game, so I want to put Bo Jackson in the game. Doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It's just my personal opinion on what I think should go for the game right now at this place and time. We all understand that, and I think once you understand that, you become closer as a team, become more of a brotherhood, because now you're not fighting against, oh, I'm getting more reps than him. Now it's more like, hey, Josh, go out there and get that 2 yards, man. Before we count on you, man. Like, it's more like that, you know? And I think that's what separates the teams and from the families, you know?
It's great perspective. If they all are bought in like Josh Williams is, then it's not about getting yours. It's about doing what's best for the team. You got a lot of available fresh legs as well. So I think we've seen this work before with this many guys. I just gave you 2 examples. And, oh, by the way, 2007 they won the national championship. 2011 they played for the national championship. So the last 2 times we saw this much talent, this many bodies in a backfield, seasons went pretty well for LSU. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.